What is going on, baseball fans, and welcome back to the channel. This is Orioles Today, and as always, I am Sean Ferguson. Thank you guys so much for starting your week off with me here on the channel. And if you're a fan of today's episode, like always, please give that like button a big high five. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. Starting off with today's episode, it's a little bit of how I started off with the last episode, and that is talking about Justin Verlander. I let you guys know that the Orioles apparently interested in the soon-to-be 43-year-old Justin Verlander, and we'll get into your guys' comments from last episode at the end of this episode, and it's almost everyone saying no, and I understand it. I told you guys when I saw the news break, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me, and it's still not making a lot of sense to me right now of why the Orioles will go that direction, even after missing out on Ranger Suarez. If that was the guy that the Orioles were all in on, and it still just doesn't make a lot of sense to me of where this team is right now and what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish to win now and even to compete in seasons to come. It just doesn't make sense as a move, and it gives me deja vu of last year when they missed out on a lot of these guys, and of course they weren't spending money like they are this offseason, but you end up with a Charlie Morton and a Kyle Gibson, and those moves just made me cringe. I hated them, and the Orioles haven't, as of this recording, have not signed Verlander right now, but it's really giving me those vibes. And again, this offseason has been better when it comes to signing players than it was last offseason, but ending up with Morton and Gibson was not ideal, not even close, and it would feel like that by signing a guy like Verlander with his age and just, he's past his prime, and our rotation doesn't need that. Our rotation, if you're going to sign a guy, needs to be a top-end guy or close to it, at least a guy that you can fit in the rotation that makes sense. Verlander isn't that guy right now with where the Orioles sit in the rotation. And going off last year, he pitched to a 3.85 ERA with 52 walks to 137 strikeouts and 152 innings pitched. So, again, it wasn't a terrible year for him. He had a little gas left in the tank, but you're kind of banking on that's exactly what you're going to get this year or something very, very close. And you just can't do that. 43 years old, you have no idea what you're going to get or if it's even going to come close to what he was able to show the year prior. So, I'm not thinking he's going to cost a lot of money, and that's not the issue at all. It's what you really need compared to what you're looking for right now when it comes to this news. And the latest update, as of this recording, Verlander has not signed with the Orioles or anybody else, but the Orioles appear to be the team that is after him the most, and that remains to be true. Many sources continue to indicate that the Orioles are heavily involved in Justin Verlander right now, and I said this question last time, and it was, yes, the Orioles could be interested in Justin Verlander, but is it a case of they're interested in him if the guys that they're currently looking at don't come through? And we'll get into Ranger Suarez here in a little bit. And yes, it appears the Orioles were definitely all in on Suarez, but is it another case of, okay, well, we can still go after Valdez, we could still go after Gallen, and there's still names out there that the Orioles could trade for, and is it a case of, okay, if we miss out on those guys, then we'll go ahead and bring in Verlander. And that is more like what happened last year with Morton and Gibson signing. And that could be the case here. I just don't see, with what the Orioles have done this offseason and the progress that they've shown in making smart moves, will kind of almost end their offseason with a move like this. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So we'll continue to monitor it and see what comes of it over the next couple of days. And if the Orioles do make a move on Verlander, or if they continue to stay on one of these top guys that still remain in free agency. And it's talking about a guy that is still available in free agency, and this is not a guy that would be a top-end guy, but in my opinion, you could still put him in that 3 to 4 range with what the Orioles have going on right now. With health being the way it is, everyone seems and appears to be okay. Rogers and Bradish seems like a real solid 1-2 punch. Again, on paper, they have to stay healthy, but they have both proven that they can be reliable in the front end if they stay healthy. And we're hopeful that Rodgers was not a flash in the pan, that he is going to be and continue to be as dominant as he showed last year, and Bradish staying healthy has proven that he is a solid guy in that front end. You have that. You have Eflin, you have Boz, you have Kramer, you have Wells, and you can throw in a guy like a Zack Littell and add him possibly to that 3 or 4 range, and then that gives you even more added depth. Or if you want to make a trade with someone more towards the end of that rotation, that's also setting up a possibility. But if you go out and get a guy like a Zack Littell, he could easily be a 3 or 4 guy, and that just gives you so many more options and makes you even more deep. But isn't a guy like a Verlander that you just really don't have room for. He's a guy that could easily be thrown in there and just gives you another arm that you can rely on. And if you look at Littell, he's had a career of kind of bouncing around. He was drafted in 2013 in the 11th round by Seattle. He was in the minors there for 4 years, and he was traded to the Yankees in 2017, then over to the Twins in 2017. He made his major league debut with Minnesota in 2018, and then he signed a minor league deal with the Giants in 2021. Then he signed a minor league deal with the Rangers in 2023, and then was traded from the Rangers to the Red Sox that same year. And then 5 days after being traded to Boston, he was designated for assignment. And then with that, he was claimed by the Tampa Bay Rays, where he was absolutely shown his best baseball. The most success that he had was with Tampa the last 2 years. And then last year, he was traded over and finished the season with the Cincinnati Reds and is now a free agent. So last year, combined with Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, 10-8 with a 3.81 ERA over his young career, 34-29 with a 3.88 ERA. He's been with a total of 8 teams already. But the last 2 years have been pretty solid for him, and it's one of those things where it seems like he is slowly but surely progressing into a nice arm there that could be right now in the middle of your rotation. And again, that would just give you another added arm. And just let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Would it be a waste of time to add a guy to the middle of the rotation when you believe, yes, we could still use a front-end guy, but if you're really trusting in Rodgers and Bradish, that you could add another guy like a Littell that could be middle of that rotation to really solidify it? Would you be okay with that? He's not going to break the bank. At most, you could sign him to a deal that's going to be, I've seen anywhere from $10 to $12 million annually. So you could sign him to a 2-year deal, max $24 million. So if you're not worried about money, that's fine. Go get a Valdez, go get a Gallon, go get a guy that's going to cost you a little more if you're okay with that, because then, yeah, that'll be your front end option. But if those kind of go away, you still have a guy like a Zack Littell who is still there that you could sign a lot cheaper, and that also gives you more space in your salary and your payroll for when some of these other guys, the big bats, the young guys like Henderson and Rutschman and Westberg, when they are all owed contracts. So that's also something to keep in mind. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And before we get into your guys' comments from this past episode, I did want to talk a little about Ranger Suarez. Reports did come out, I believe it was from Ken Rosenthal, that the Orioles definitely were in on Ranger Suarez, but they finished as the runner-ups to him. And it gave me immediate deja vu of the Kyle Schwarber chase. The Orioles apparently came in as a runner-ups to Kyle Schwarber. They offered him the same contract that he ended up signing with the Philadelphia Phillies, and they immediately pivoted to Pete Alonso, who they ended up signing on a 5-year deal. And the thing that came in my mind was, okay, well, they went all in on Suarez, but he chose to go with the Red Sox. Does that mean Valdez is coming? And, it hasn't happened yet because it was a lot quicker when they went ahead and signed Alonso, but that would be great. So that's still something to keep in your mind. But the numbers have yet to come out of what the Orioles officially offered Suarez. But again, some reports, and the main one coming from Ken Rosenthal was that the Orioles finished as the runner-ups to Suarez, but they definitely were in on him. And, if Suarez was their guy, that was their backup, go ahead and make your move. See how much that's going to cost you. It's probably going to cost you, from what I'm seeing, at least $20 million more on a 5-year deal. Suarez signing 5 years, $130. Valdez will be 5 years, $150. And you said you got 2 big splashes this offseason. You made one with Alonso. And if it's around that range, I feel like if he's willing to come to Baltimore at this point where the rotation is, if you're still looking for a front-end guy, then Valdez right now is the best option. They should go ahead and do that. But let's go ahead and get into your guys' comments from this past episode. As always, I do apologize if I mispronounce any of these names, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to get to all of these comments, but thank you guys so much for continuing to comment on each and every one of these episodes. It's so awesome. Thank you guys so much. Please continue to do so. I'm going to start off with this comment from Sebastian Shaw. No to JV. We tried that with Charlie Morton last season. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. The beginning of this episode, yeah, you did it last year. Don't do it twice. This one from Mugget Chris. Great. See if Nolan Ryan is available too. Yep, like I said, most of these and most of it has been just why go after a guy who's 43 when you have the talent and the roster built up right now to do the best you can to compete. Why would you add a guy like that? I understand it. Me Focus says the most Orioles-like thing to happen in 2026 is that the O's sign Justin Moorlander and Grayson Rodriguez wins the Cy Young. That absolutely would be. You guys know how it was when the news broke that Rodriguez was traded to the Angels for Taylor Ward. It hurt. I really, really like Grayson Rodriguez. I know the injuries are really hurting him, and they have been for a while. And the Orioles wanted to make a move to get an outfield bat, and they felt comfy with Ward. But that would definitely be a very O's thing. You sign a 43-year-old, let this young guy go to the Angels, and he does absolutely amazing there. This one from Kevin Lewis. We already have Palmer on the team. There's another age joke towards Verlander. That's a good one. This one from Matheos. There should be no market for a 43-year-old wore-out starter. This is common sense. Yeah, and I just have no idea. It just hits me again. I just don't know where they would put him in that rotation, if he would just be like a type of long reliever or a spot start kind of guy, but he is not the kind of guy that would fit in rotation for me. Like a Zack Littell would be like your limit there. Like I think he could be a middle guy. I don't think Verlander is that with his age. And again, I know what his numbers were last year, but if that's what you're banking on, that he's going to have the same numbers as last year, at his age, you just can't do that, in my opinion. This one from Crime Dog. Sell the team if you can't afford to compete. We need an owner with a pair. Like I said, I believe that this offseason definitely has been a step up from last offseason, but I understand what you're saying. If you say you have room for two big splashes this offseason, make two big splashes. You made one. Valdez will be the second for sure, and that is an area of need. This one from Ken Silverstone. What do fans think is a sensible expenditure for Framber Valdez? In my view, $150 million for 5 years will be the max. $30 million a year. Of course, if they can do better than that in either money or particularly years, including offering an opt-out after 2 or 3 years, that would be a no-brainer. He is the best option, though I think he will end up costing too much. And when it comes to costing too much, I said this too, with fewer and fewer top-end options right there, and he's definitely the best available top-tier free agent pitcher available, he definitely can drive that price up with the amount of teams, depending on the amount of teams that are after him right now, with the Orioles definitely being one of them. So it could cost a little more just because Suarez is gone. He saw what he made, and if he believes he should get more, then that's what he could be going after. Like I said, Suarez got 5 for $130. He could be looking 5 for $150 or even more. So, but if the Orioles do have that to spend and it doesn't cripple them for the next couple of years, I just still believe that's a move they should make. This one from Dave Hurt. Trade for Gore. The control years make it the best deal. Yeah, and I talked about this too with some of these teams like the Nationals. The Nationals, with this move, if they made this move, they're going to demand so much in return. You see, like the Marlins did it with Edward Cabrera, and the Rays even did it for the most part with a Shane Baz. They have these guys that have so much team control. That's what's really driving it right now. Like that is huge. They can get a very big return for that. And I believe with how talented and the potential that Mackenzie Gore has right now, I think that's only going to make it even more expensive when it comes to a return package to Washington for that. And if the Orioles have that available, get it done. I believe Mackenzie Gore is exceptional. I think he will be absolutely terrific in the Orioles rotation. And also right now, he still has a good amount of years left of team control, so that's not going to hurt you financially. He's making almost nothing right now. And it just gets to a point of how do you feel with your farm system after that deal. This one from Dano. Why? To save a few bucks, just stop it. Either sign Gallen or trade for Peralta and be done. You really did much of nothing with pitching in Boz and Eflin unless you add a front-end starter. And I'll disagree a little bit there. Like I said, if you have a healthy Trevor Rogers and he pitches like last year and a healthy Kyle Bradish, that's a pretty nasty 1-2 punch. And I understand you could possibly improve it a little bit, but that's a really, really solid 1-2 punch. And yeah, adding a guy like Valdez will be a nasty 1-2-3 punch, but I really kind of like the depth that we've added right now. And I wouldn't say that it's the end of the world if you don't get Valdez. I still believe there's other options out there and that you could get a front-end guy or even close to it, or even a middle guy, a 3 or 4. Even that's why I brought up Zack Littell. And I don't think it'll be the end of the world. I think it would hurt you more, honestly. In my opinion, it hurt you a little more than good if you did sign a Justin Verlander. But if you don't get another one of those guys, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it does put us behind a little bit. We're going to go last one here, guys. This is from Scott Warnick. I think it would be a good idea to get Verlander. The age and experience is what the young pitchers need to look and talk to. Don't need to pay Verlander top dollar. It would help every pitcher we have. Also, adding Bader would create a major logjam in an already overloaded outfield. Someone would have to go or get demoted to AAA. Starting off with Verlander, I understand what you're saying. You know, always having that veteran presence is pretty nice. But in this case, I'm just at a point where I think it would just do a little bit more harm than good, where the Orioles currently sit saying this is win now, and bringing in a 43-year-old pitcher who is past his prime. Yes, he's a future Hall of Famer. That's great, but I don't think you sign a guy like that to a deal for vet experience. You have a lot of vets on this team that don't need another guy to come in like that just for that. I could really use a guy that's going to make a difference in the rotation, and I think bringing in Verlander isn't going to do that. Maybe like I said, a long relief role or an injury or a spot start every now and then. But he's not a guy I really feel like you're going to be able to depend on in 2026. And talking about Harrison Bader, I think that Harrison Bader will be an upgrade in center field, and I understand you're saying it will create a logjam, but I think if you are going to upgrade a position, you need to go for it, and bringing in a guy like Harrison Bader could do that, and that also opens you up a little more to more being able to trade a little more for adding maybe another arm or a guy in the bullpen. So I think Harrison Bader would absolutely help and improve that position out there in center field, and it can also help Colton Cowser out a little bit too. So I am still on board for that trade, or that signing Bader. But guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and starting your week off with me here on the channel. And if you were a fan of today's episode, like always, please give that like button a big high five. And if you're a fan of this content, please subscribe. Get yourself daily notifications for all of these daily video drops covering all things the Baltimore Orioles. But I will see you guys on the very next episode. This is Orioles Today. I am Sean Ferguson, and let's go O's.